guys, today I'm going to be going over the teaching strategy, take a stand. Now the basis of that strategy is that a teacher would give students a statement, and if the students agree with the statement, they would stand up or sit down. So this is a group activity. This is a teacher-led group activity. You typically use the whole classroom at once. You can divide them up into smaller groups, but typically I've kind of looked this up and most people seem to do it as a whole class. Now, one of the great things about this strategy is that it's very kinesthetic. It's very movement-based. So you're having students get up out of their chairs and sit back down. So it's a great way to grab students' attention. At the beginning of class, you can use it as a review to whatever you learned the day before. You can also use it to kind of assess prior knowledge before really getting into a lesson. It seems as though this is typically used as a social studies or language arts technique because it's usually opinion-based, where a teacher would say something along the lines of, I believe that we should have a dress code. And if students agree with that, they would stand up. If they don't, they would sit down. But today, I've modified that into a science lesson for first graders around the standard 2B, life sciences, that says that students know both plants and animals need water. Animals need food and plants need light. So I'm basically using this to go over with students classifying living things versus non-living things. So to do this, I would recap with my students when they come in. I would say, okay, what did we learn the other day about living things versus non-living things? We would talk about plants need water and sunlight, animals need food and water. And then I would show them a card with a word on it, and you can incorporate a picture. And I think that this is a really good thing to do if you have any English learners in your class, because you're not focusing on the actual words themselves. You're not trying to really focus on the vocabulary of the word. You're trying to get them to understand this concept of living versus non-living. So if you can give them a picture, it'll just help increase the understanding for English learners or for students who just are not up to they're not up to the normal standard with their reading. So I would show them this card and say, okay, do we think that a tree is living or non-living? If you think it's living, please stand up. And if they think it's not living, that they should stay sitting. And then when all the students have decided if they're standing or sitting, you would go and ask somebody who's standing, okay, why do you think it's living? What do trees need to live? Or ask a student who's sitting, why are you sitting? Why do you think it's not living? And then you would, if the students want to debate that, you can have them do that. And that's a great thing to do, having them really engage with each other. But you would want to make sure that students understand before that you move on that a tree is living because it needs sunlight and water. So then you can show them a card like this. Rocks. Ask students, is it living or non-living? They would choose to stand or sit down. It would be the same thing as the one before. You would ask them to politely debate, ask a student, why are you standing? Ask another one, why are you sitting? And you will not move on until students understand that rocks are not living because they don't need any of those three things to exist. So then you can have a bicycle. And this one you might want to be prepared for students to get wrong at first because bicycles move. And it seems as though a lot of young children associate life with movement. So because bikes move, they might stand up for this one. So again, you just want to clarify with them, if you have any students who stand up for this, that that movement is not necessarily a requirement for life. It's that a living thing has to need food or water or sunlight, and a bike needs none of those three things. Then you can give them something like a house. And again, you would give them the picture. And you might want to be aware of your student's socioeconomic status, and you might want to give them a picture of a house that they will actually understand or that they relate to, that they would know as a house. Maybe don't give them a giant picture of a mansion because they might not be able to grasp that that's a house per se. Same with an apartment. If you have students who don't tend to live in apartment complexes, don't give them an apartment building. So just be aware of that when you're making your pictures, because again, this is about understanding the concept. You're not trying to have them necessarily use the word, or you're not trying to use the picture to decipher the word necessarily. It's about understanding life versus non-living. So you'd ask them to stand or sit for this one. And again, make sure that they know the correct answer before you move on. So then, oh, and I apologize for this. My printer's not printing in color because I can't get it fixed because the virus. I can't go outside. So this is a pig though. So you'd show this to students and again ask them, is it living or non-living? And it's an animal. So hopefully if you've gone over this before, they'll understand that a pig's an animal, pigs are living. And again, if they don't, if you have students sitting down, that's okay. Just go over with them the things that animals need to survive. Go over that pigs need those things to survive, and they are animals, so they are living. And then the last one I have is a person. And you can't see it, but it's Joe Exotic. But it's a person for this activity. So you'd ask them, do people need water and food and or sunlight to survive? And hopefully they understand that they are people, that they need those things, that they need food and water to survive. And again, if they don't stand up, that's not a problem. Just really nicely ask them why they're sitting. Ask them, why do they think a person's not living? And then again, before you move on, just make sure that they know people are living. So I think that this activity is a really great thing to do. I got really excited when I read about it. You can also make this into a math lesson, especially for 6th grade and up, by having students count the amount of people who stand for certain statements and who sit. And that way you can calculate percentages and make ratios. So this really activity can go a lot of different ways. You can use it for just about anything. You can use it for reviewing material. You can use it for kind of solidifying that material. So I know I'll definitely be using this in a classroom. I'm actually really excited to use this one. So have a nice day, guys, and I hope that you guys use the Take a Stand teaching strategy in your own classroom.